Oh, hey Chris, I just saw the most awesome horror movie, but not many people seem to be talking about it.
Oh, really? Oh, I mean, we've seen a lot of horror films, so it's great when we find one that's, a bit of a rare one. What is it?
Have you ever heard of it? It's called Evil Dead 2.
Nathan, please tell me you're joking. Look, seriously, Evil Dead 2 is a movie that has had a lot of coverage over the years, so you might be thinking, is there really anything new to say?
Oh, well, there's a reason for a lot of people talking about it. It's probably one of the best horror sequels ever made.
Yeah, I mean, like, when I think of sequels that kind of outdo the original, it's, Evil Dead 2. Even though I really do like Evil Dead 1, it has its own merits and charms.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a great film.
I think of, like, Evil Dead 2, Aliens, if you count that as a sci-fi horror. It's rare for a sequel to be way more influential than the original film.
Yeah, the only other one I could think of would maybe be Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah, true, because that's the film that introduces us to Jason for the first time. And of course you have the king of horror film sequels with I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which features an uncredited performance by Jack Black as a Jamaican, I guess? Oh, I don't know, but it sure is a sign of quality.
Yeah, that's my babies. Y'all growed up good. Y'all growed up real good.
But what really fascinates me about the Evil Dead series is just how weird a sequel Evil Dead 2 is when you think about it. Because the original has a very, very different tone. The first Evil Dead is this grimy, low-budget film that is obviously made on the cheap, but that's part of the uncomfortable vibe of the film. But Evil Dead 2, when you compare, is much more of a comedy.
Yeah, but it's almost like they had the budget and they redid it at the start. This is what we wanted it to look like.
Yeah, because I mean, we should cover this. For those who don't know, what is the plot to Evil Dead 1, Nathan?
Cabin in the woods. People go to it. They play a recording they find, and it's a book where they've a guy reading scripture from the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead. Demons come out. The end.
Yeah, it's one of the most simple cliche plots, but we should say it's cliche now because it was so influential, Evil Dead 1.
Oh, yeah.
And, funnily enough, maybe you could say more Evil Dead 2, because what's the plot to Evil Dead 2, Nathan?
Evil Dead 2, a bunch of people go into a cabin in the woods and they play some scripture on some tape and they're stuck while these demons and stuff attack.
Yeah, so our perceptive viewers are probably noticing there's a few similarities between Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2. Look, in essence, it's pretty much a spiritual remake, or maybe a remix of the original film is a better way to describe it. It's a bit of a grey area. It's almost a redo, but also a sequel.
It starts with a recap sort of thing, but you think it's just going to be a voiceover where he goes, oh, this thing came out, and it took my girlfriend, and I had to kill her in the shed, and it's like, oh no, they actually like remake the first movie again and then continue on.
Yeah, it's because they couldn't use any original footage from the first film due to some issue with the rights, which seems to be a common curse with horror movies we cover, but that's not the biggest difference in Evil Dead 2. Like we said, this film has much more comedy in it, and that comedy is definitely intentional. It's not a so bad it's funny kind of situation, which you often get with genre films. It's actual proper comedy, and you could tell it's part of a really, really well-crafted film.
Oh yeah, still looks amazing, and it is genuinely funny, like when the deer head turns and starts laughing at him and stuff. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah, they're really not afraid to embrace the silly with things like that, and scenes where Ash cuts off his own demon-infected hand and replaces it with a chainsaw. Like, really? I don't think that's the most realistic scenario, but it's definitely awesome.
Well, are we ready to take a look?
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect! Oh, God. Got anything smaller?
Now, obviously, this film has some really good directing going on from Sam Raimi, who also directed Evil Dead 1. But let's be clear here, this movie is made by Bruce Campbell's performance as the main protagonist, Ash.
Oh, if it was a different actor, wrong actor in that role as Ash, and this movie is not as popular as it is now.
No, not at all.
You grab old mate from The Exterminator and put him in there, and this movie, no one ever sees it because it sucks.
Oh yeah, Robert's single expression Ginty. From the get-go, Evil Dead 2 was supposed to be more comedic. That was the goal of director-writer Sam Raimi and co-writer Scott Spiegel, who used to make a lot of Super 8 films together when they were much younger, and a lot of those films they made were comedies. And of course, Bruce Campbell loves doing his hammy comedy as well.
Before I stop hunting you down like a filthy fang.
Which is maybe why the third Evil Dead film is even more comedic again, although it doesn't have Evil Dead in the title. Instead, it's called
Army of Darkness.
Or Ash versus the Army of Darkness. Like, there's a few different titles there.
Yeah, it changes depending on which country you're in, but regardless, it's almost a straight-up comedy adventure film with a few scary bits sprinkled in here and there.
Oh yeah, no, it goes horror. Is it horror comedy or comedy horror? Then comedy horror horror comedy.
Yeah, look, I feel like maybe we're splitting hairs here. How about we say horror? And then the next one's maybe 50-50, the horror and comedy. And then the next one's about 20% horror, 80% comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the power of math, people! Come on!
You are correct, MC.
And then, of course, the TV series, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, continues that kind of mix that Army of Darkness introduces.
The comedy, but with some over-the-top gore and stuff.
One of the things as well that's really interesting to me about Evil Dead is, and I might be crazy here, and you can tell me if I'm crazy, but I kind of categorize films in my head in this really strange way. So you've got your slashers. So you've got things like, you know, your Friday the 13th, Halloween, A Nightmare on Elm Street. They kind of like sit together. They're the big three slashers. But then you've got your kind of more trippy, subversive, acid style horror. And what I mean by that is you've got stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You've got Evil Dead. You've got Phantasm 1.
Yep.
Like, all three of them have this kind of really massive focus on aesthetics and mood and tone rather than characters and plot.
Boy.
All low budget as well, really low budget.
Yeah.
But what's super crazy to me is of those three, Phantasm, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Evil Dead, all three had sequels that embraced being a little over the top and silly.
Actually, they did too. But all the sequels were good as well. They were better for it.
Every single sequel essentially took what was great about the first one and then amped it up, but also injected comedy.
Ow! He did it in my plate! Oh, my brain is burning! Non-flashback! Oh!
And I mean, like, maybe that's self-awareness to a degree, because they were films that were continued by their original creators. So Evil Dead 2 was made by Sam Raimi, who made Evil Dead 1.
Yeah.
Don Coscarelli made Phantasm 2, who made Phantasm 1. And of course, as we've discussed in another video when we talked about Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, Tobe Hooper made the first two Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. Like, obviously, every one of these directors wanted to sell their movie and to make money, but there was still a bit of an artistic statement there. It wasn't just a studio product. Like, they weren't playing it safe like some of the more blander horror sequels you see out there, especially to slashers.
Yeah, it's the same thing each sequel.
Yeah, I mean, look, A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th did branch out a little into more comedic territory with some of their films, and you did have a bit of genre expansion with Halloween 6, which was technically a tragedy. Look, some people might not like their horror films to have a bit of comedy in the mix, but I think it can work.
Yeah, a mixture of genre really does help. Just stop it from being monotonous, really.
Yeah, 100%. It's that thing that any good film should have, is modulation. That idea of, you have a little bit of light, you have a little bit of dark, and both of those things make the other more bright or more dark.
Yeah, you can watch a lighthearted, have a lighthearted moment in a horror movie. It just makes it a bit more fun, helps you remember not to take it too serious sometimes.
Yeah, and honestly, that was a bit of my problem with the Evil Dead remake. Well, I mean, I'm not sure if it's a remake. It could also be a sequel, reboot, reimagining. I'm not sure. Ash even appears in the after credits sequence, so who knows?
Yeah, and it's set in like a modern time setting that. But it starts off by just trying to be so vulgar off the start, with the chick tied up in the basement swearing and stuff.
You're so loud, you pathetic fuck!
They set her on fire. Like, the original Evil Dead, you didn't know how bad it was going. It got worse as it went. These people just having an innocent vacation sort of thing, a little weekend away in the woods, whatever. And this one just starts straight away, like, so full on. You're like, no.
Oh, yeah, and it just keeps that tone. It's almost relentless. And I know, like, some people really, really appreciate that idea that it's just this kind of, like, constantly kind of, like, bleak film. But it's like, I like in the original one, they have those like lighthearted moments with the crew. They're smoking a little pot, having a little bit of a laugh. That's missing from the remake. And it makes me a little bit scared for the new Evil Dead film.
Yeah.
That's coming out.
I mean, I didn't mind the remake, but it just, I don't know.
No, neither did I. Yeah, I didn't mind it. It just didn't really stay in my head.
No.
And I mean, where do you go from here? I mean, the remake ended literally with like 50 million gallons of blood raining down from the sky. It's like you've hit kind of the peak. It's like, where are you going to go from here?
Yeah, that's exactly
like,
it.
surely that film set a world record or something. But maybe that idea of, having light and shade is why comedy has had such a big influence on horror recently. I mean, like, you see things like Jordan Peele with Get Out and Us. You've got David Gordon Green with the recent Halloween, who was a comedy director first.
Yeah, but it's a weird thing, these comedians making, like, genuine horror movies are disturbing. Like, Get Out and Us they're really good films.
And I mean, like, I might be in the minority here, but I'm actually really excited about the Chris Rock produced Saw sequel, Spiral.
Spiral, yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah, I guess it's because so much of comedy and horror have, like, crossover. It's all about kind of timing and pacing.
Yeah, and tone.
And tone, yeah, and kind of understanding how to play the audience and how to, like, land those hits, I guess.
Yeah, well, seeing as we're talking about your comedy horror sequels, my favourite comedy horror sequel of all time would be Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows.
Nathan, how many times do I have to tell you? This is like literally the 5th time we've discussed this in however long we've known each other. Blair Witch 2 is not meant to be a comedy.
It's hilarious. It's so good compared to the first one.
I know it's funny, but that wasn't intentional.
Own an entertainment first Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, DVD plus CD. In stores March 13th, 2001.
Don't worry, sweetie, we're not gonna hurt you.